Hey friends, welcome to the Distortion Den. I'm Deke, and I'm back with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Monkey Bars himself, Andy Curran, AC. Welcome back, buddy.
How are you, sir? Happy to be back in the Distortion Den. One of my favorite guys to talk to, and good to see you, Deke.
Well, it's great to have you, and I never refer to you as a guest. You're always my co-host when you come on.
I kind of do take over, right? And there are times when I'm asking you, well, hey, where did you get that T-shirt? Let's start there, man. Why don't you tell me about your Muscle Rock T-shirt?
Well, I've got to give a shout out to my good pal, T-Bone, who is a great gift giver. And for my birthday this year, Canada Post came through eventually, and on my doorstep was this fantastic Coney Hatch 80s Muscle Rock tee.
Well, I happen to know a little bird told me that you own 4 T-shirts and T-Bone bought 3 of them. So keep it coming, man. You're churning the money over in the Coney Hatch merch store, buddy. Keep it coming.
And I have to stay friends with him because he might repo back 3 of them. So we don't want that to happen.
Love T-Bone.
Excellent. So we got a lot to talk on this episode, Andy. Not only about this fantastic 40th anniversary issue of the Coney debut, but you have an acoustic Coney Hatch show coming up on November 14th. I'd also like to see what the latest is with Envy and None and Whiskey and the Devil. And then I'll leave a last question before we get right into the Super Deluxe. And I'll hit you up with that question after we get through this. So the floor is all yours, sir.
I'm ready to roll. Well, look at the 40th anniversary of the debut Coney Hatch record. It's loosely the 40th. To be full transparency, the record came out in 82. If you recall, at 2022, we were maybe just crawling out from the pandemic. So like a lot of different things, the pandemic threw a wrench into the works of our anniversary record, but we did want to celebrate it. And it's the one that put Coney Hatch on the map. It's the only certified gold record in our catalog. And, Zeke, this ride for me was an interesting one because on a previous interview, I told the host that I traditionally I'm not the type of guy that looks backwards. I go forwards. I'm always trying to move forward and do fun projects and work with people that I love and respect. And rarely do I go back and go, oh man, I can't, you can't change the past, but you can change the future. But in speaking about the Coney Hatch debut album, in digging in, it brought me back to that time and reminded me how lucky we were and the rocket ride that we were on, to be plucked from the bars and be mentored by Kim Mitchell. Like I wouldn't even be here talking to you if it wasn't for my friend Kim Mitchell, who had the faith and maybe the insight to think that there was something there when he saw us at the Gasworks to take us into the studio. Subsequently, we recorded like a 3 or 4 song demo. Kim then brought it around to a couple different labels. And before we knew it, we had an offer from EMI Records and Anthem Records to put out an album. And that started the rocket ride. Like I'm really condensing this story, but that changed our world overnight. We went from playing clubs like the Landmark up near you to the Gasworks to, playing Kirkland Lake for a week and Notre Dame de Nord and Brandon and, all these crazy one-horse towns that we spent a lot of time developing our craft, being a bar band. And instantly, it felt like overnight, like our first big show, opening up for Ted Nugent and Cheap Trick in Toronto at the CNE Grandstand. And it never stopped from there. I guess the sort of pinnacle was the Screaming for Vengeance tour that we went out all through the US and Canada. But in between there, opening up for Edgar Winter and Peter Frampton and Eddie Money and Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush and Joe Perry. Like these were all acts that I grew up listening to and loved. So for me, Deke, a real pinch me moment going back and revisiting that rocket ride and thinking about how lucky we were and all the different things that happened with us. We played Maple Leaf Gardens twice in one year. We opened up for Judas Priest, and then a couple months later, we played New Year's Eve with Saga and Kim Mitchell. So as a kid growing up in Toronto, like what a crazy chapter to be playing the arena where I watched the Maple Leafs play so many times, but saw so many concerts there, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm finally on that stage, right? So there was all of that, but the cool thing is that maybe the years that I worked with Ray Daniels and Peggy Ciccone, where I wasn't performing, and I was part of Anthem Records as the A&R guy and part of their management team, it was ingrained in my DNA on any re-releases that we would do, specifically Rush, to make sure that we were very sensitive that the fans had bought these records before. So we just didn't want to slap a logo on it and say reissued, remastered. We wanted to give them something special. So that forced us to go back into the Coney Hatch archives and, find that recording from 1982 at the Cleveland Agora, which, we can talk about a little bit if you want, but, there's a snapshot in history there. Worked with Harry Hess to get that sounding really amazing. Put some, some outtakes, like we did. We've got the demo of Sin After Sin on there, which I sang, and then Dreamland and Where I Draw the Line, which were Carl Dixon songs. And then just to go back in our personal archives and get photographs and clippings and everything and make a part of the jacket. So a real conscious effort we wanted to put something special out about this. We just didn't simply want to put it out and have remastered on it, So we spent a lot of time and on it, and I'm pretty proud of the results. And it came out like October the 28th, so it's available now, in record stores online. If you can't find it, you can go to the Coney Hatch merch store and you can order it through there. If you're potentially in the States or in the UK and you can't find it, you can get it from our merch store.
Yeah, and I have a ticker running. It says coneyhatch.com. So if you can't find it, you can get it. But I can honestly say, Andy, I got both exhibits. So we're gonna do a little showing off. And first of all, I have to thank once again as Chip and Brent from Chipster PR. They graciously sent me a copy of it on CD. Nice. And then I went and ordered it from the vinyl copy at Anthem Records. And I have to say, folks, the prices are very reasonable. I think the CDs are $19 and the vinyl is $55. And there's no getting around shipping and posting and all that jazz. But for a base value, it's worth the money. And well, shall we just dig into this?
Yeah, I'm glad you like it, buddy, and happy to dig in. Fire away. I can tell you whatever you want to know about that bad boy.
All right. Yeah. So I know, like you just mentioned, you did some work on, obviously, I know you did the work on the Rush. You did. I got it behind me here. The Triumph Allied Forces box set. I know you did awesome work in that one, and that one was very hard to get. And know anybody out there, I'm not parting with it.
Thank you.
But were you full hands-on with putting this package together? Because you seem like I remember one of our chats, I think it was the Whiskey and Devil chat, you said that your wife said you're a pack rat.
Yep. Guilty as charged, my friend. A lot of those photos that you see in there and clippings, they're a sort of a cross-section of photos that both Carl Dixon and I saved. And I had a blast putting it together, and I used the same mindset that was behind, the Max Webster box set or the Triumph Allied Forces. Yeah, there's like that was one of our first outdoor shows that we ever did in London, Ontario. And my friend Jim Prue was a photographer and gave us the rights to use those photos. The back photo cover is an outtake that we had that is different from the original record. So there's a little, what I call Easter eggs. If you're like a Coney Hatch diehard, it's like a Find Waldo thing. You go in and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that was there, right? But again, approached it with the mindset that if we're going to do this, anybody like yourself that is a fan of the band and wants to see it, we use the old school Anthem Records logo on there.
One more.
Yeah. And we found the backstage pass from the Cleveland Agora. I can't say enough about Harry Hess, my buddy Harry, who's the lead vocalist for Harem Scarum, but just an awesome guy and a decorated recording engineer and mastering guy. And I'll get geeky with you on this one, Deke, and tell you that we had a cassette of the Cleveland Agora show. And as you might well imagine, listening to a cassette at 2025, the quality of it, not great, lots of hissing, the sonic spectrum of the bass and the drums and the mid frequencies and the high frequencies. I'm getting geeky with you, very limited. And you're dealing with technology from the 70s and 80s when you have a final master that's on a cassette tape in an analog platform. So I worked with Harry, and Harry had done some really great homework in technology, and even spoken with the folks at Abbey Road about how they worked with the Beatles to make that song Free as a Bird come to fruition, which was taken from a cassette demo of John Lennon's. Then the band messed with the technology and the audio, and then finished it, put their overdubs on it and finished it. Well, with Coney Hatch, what Harry did was he imported the analog audio into a digital platform. He used an AI extraction-based program to separate the drums, the bass, the two guitars, and the vocals. And then they gave them the separate stems or tracks, if you will, where he could go back and then he could add EQ on drums. He could put reverb on them. He could EQ the bass and the guitars and make them pop a little bit better. So if I was to play you the before and after and the cassette version of the Cleveland Agora show based on what Harry did with it, it is night and day. He resurrected that recording from the dead. We had dismissed the notion of using it, and the results he got were fantastic. So I like it because it's a bit of lightning in a bottle. It's the very first show that we did in the US, and it captured a time and a place and a spirit of us playing in Cleveland. And small other little anecdote about the Cleveland show is we performed at 11 o'clock in the morning, okay? And I was like, who the hell is stupid enough to book a show at 11 a.m.? B, the Coney Hatches were not good morning people. We were night owls. We don't wake up early. So we had to have gallons of coffee to get ready for that show. We played at the Cleveland Agora, which has a real great legacy, maybe similar to like the Whiskey A Go-Go or the Roxy or the Alma Combo. It's a very well-known institutional venue in Cleveland. And our first thoughts were, well, nobody's going to show up at 11 o'clock in the morning in their right mind to see a rock band. I think because MTV was playing Devil's Deck, that to our surprise, when the curtains opened, the house was packed. Full house at 11 o'clock in the morning. I later went on to learn that the WMMS, the radio station, had a built-in program called the coffee break, and a lot of local people would take their they would take their lunch break, go off to the Cleveland Agora, have a few beers, chicken wings, whatever they have, and then go back to work. So there was this built-in audience that were there, and to our surprise, we were playing to a sold-out club. So you can feel that we had a bit of fire in our belly in those recordings. We played really well. We sang well, and it was just that nice little time capsule that was part of the 40 years of Coney Hatch. And we thought, what a great companion piece to pull that out of the archives and have this historical Coney Hatch live show. So that was the reasoning behind the Cleveland part, dude. But I can tell you that Harry Hess and the magic that guy did, without him, we wouldn't have been able to include that stuff.
Wow, that's crazy. And I remember, and as a Coney fan, that's great news for all the fans. I remember you talking when we were talking about the Whiskey and the Devil. That was the same thing with your live show that you featured on there. That was recorded from a cassette, and I had no idea at that time that I said it sounds so good. I would have never thought in a million years you recorded it on cassette. And same with this one. I just thought maybe it was just kicking around on a file somewhere. Like great backstory on that. That's like just crazy.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the Whiskey and the Devil thing. That kind of opened my eyes to what Harry could do. You know, on a side note, Deke, the AI technology has come under so much scrutiny, and we've seen this time and time again. When technology gets really quite advanced, it's usually embraced with fear right out of the gate, because people, they don't understand it, or it's evil, it's doing the work of humans. And, you know, I guess the jury's out on that to see where the AI capabilities go. And I sure hope that robots aren't running the earth, 10, 20 years from now. But I can tell you that there's a lot of positive things that have come out of AI technology, specifically in the recording end of things where you can manipulate audio files and everything. So Harry has embraced that. He wasn't fearful of it. And our first sort of trial with that technology was my solo record, the Whiskey and the Devil record, which, you know, I confused a lot of people by calling it Whiskey and the Devil, but really it was my debut album. Yeah, it was the debut album. So I did a posting, many months later going, just for you folks, this album is the same as this album. It's my debut album, right?
Yeah. And it was great, actually, just to talk about this fantastic Whiskey and the Devil reissue. Got to give another shout out to a buddy of mine named Pete. When you dropped it on Apple, I sent the album to him. I said, you got to listen to Whiskey and the Devil. I probably told him, you got to listen to No Tattoos. I still call it No Tattoos. Yeah. And he liked it so much, he found it on cassette tape. And then he went and he bought this set on vinyl. But he told me the clincher was One Woman Man. When you put that on the digital as the bonus track, that was his favorite tunes. And the cool thing about Pete is he's 68 years young.
Wow. Okay, so that's so cool that you brought that up, all right? Because I want to talk a little. I know the major focus of this is to talk about the Coney Hatch release, but you brought it up, so I'm going to blame you. It's your fault, Deke. On the Whiskey and the Devil record, the same mentality that we spoke about wanting to give anybody that was a fan of that record some extra cool stuff from the vaults, right? And there was a sort of weird mindset with labels back in the 80s and the 90s that got as granular as, say, Deke, you had a band and you had 12 songs. The label goes, we're not going to pay you for 12 songs. We're only putting 10 on. And it honestly had nothing to do with this, whether the songs were great, horrible, bad, whatever. It had a lot to do with the labels not wanting to pay the artists any more than they had to. And we just accepted it. It was just like, okay, case in point, I could tell you that Monkey Bars almost didn't make the first record. That was a candidate to boot it off, which we could talk about. But anyway, so with Whiskey and the Devil, or with my debut album, we had Walk the Other Way and One Woman Man. I had every intention of putting those two songs on it and was told by the label, we're taking those two songs off. We're not going to pay you for it. So I was like, whatever. There's certain hills that you die on. You don't die on that one, right? Yeah. Tucked them away many years later. But the reason I love what you said about One Woman Man is I don't, like, a lot of people will assume that I'm just a pure knucklehead rocker, which I am. I love metal. I was spoon-fed, growing up with Rush and UFO and Thin Lizzy and Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and Ted Nugent and on and on and on, right? Mm-hmm. But I loved Southern rock. I always have loved Southern rock. And Leonard Skinner are my all-time favorite Southern rock band, followed closely by the Allman Brothers. But before Coney Hatch was Coney Hatch, I was in a band with a guy by the name of Tim Broyd. And Tim Broyd was the original guitar player in Coney Hatch. And we played nothing but Johnny Winter all day long. Okay. So you've got a scoop of blues. You got a guy who grew up in basements, in church basements, in rehearsal halls playing Johnny Winter, and Rick Derringer and Edgar Winter, all very blues-based stuff. And then you got a guy that loves Leonard Skinner, shake it up in a cup, throw it out onto the table, and you have one woman man. That was my attempt, my poor attempt to try to be a Southern rocker. But I was really like, oh man, this is an itch I got to scratch, right? So I kind of get it with the label back then. They were like, what is this song? This doesn't sound like No Tattoos. This doesn't sound like Whiskey and the Devil. This is a freaking blues Southern rock song. Okay. So I dusted it off and put it on there. I'm so happy to hear that your buddy liked it.
Oh, he loved it. He was actually texting me certain lines from the song. I was like, whoa, dude. like that's it. I guess it just hit him right at that moment. And he says, I love this. He goes, I gotta get that record. And then he's seen it at my house, and he knows I wasn't gonna even let him walk out the door with it. Yeah. So
drinking dirty water with the sheriff's daughter. I mean, you know, there's lots of cliches there. And
that is the line he dropped to me.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I was trying to think of it. Boom, there it was. Yeah.
Little last point I'll talk about One Woman Man.
Sure.
The aforementioned Tim Broyd, who was the original guitar player in Coney Hatch when we first started. One of my best friends sadly lost touch with Tim. I wish I knew how to find him, but that's him soloing all over that. That is all Tim Broyd. Fantastic lead guitar player. Yep.
That's great. Well, it's a great record. And if anybody is interested, just hit up andycurranmusic.com. And
not leonardskinner.com, andycurran.com.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. I saw this picture floating on the socials about a month ago. I thought, holy crap, is Andy the new bass player in Leonard Skinner? Because a few years back, I asked you, I said, if there were two bands that you could play bass in that wasn't Coney Hatch, what would they be? And one of them you said was Tom Petty, and the other one was Skinner. So here we go.
Well,
nice picture, by the way.
I'm going to change that to Cheap Trick and Leonard Skinner. If I'm this interview, I'm allowed to change, right? That's my problem.
Absolutely.
So if Robin Zander calls me and said, Tom Peterson wants to take a little bit of a holiday, would you mind coming out? I would say, yes, I have a 12-string bass. I'm ready to go. But with Leonard Skinner, that photo that you saw online that I posted, that I tongue-in-cheek said, happy Thanksgiving. The guys from Skinner are coming over to the house for Thanksgiving. They did not come over to my house, full transparently, for Thanksgiving. It was just a funny Thanksgiving post. But fast forward many years later, when Gary Rosington was ill, they thought it might be a good idea to hire another guitar player in the event that Gary's health would prohibit him from playing a show. And so my friend Damon Johnson, people might remember Damon Johnson as the founder of Brother Kane, but he was also in Black Star, Black Star Riders. He was in Thin Lizzy after Phil Lynott passed away. He was in Alice Cooper. He's a gifted, amazing guitarist and also a good buddy of mine. He is now in Leonard Skinner full time. After Gary Rosington passed away, Damon grabbed that torch and ran with it. So Damon and I keep in touch, and that photo you saw, he invited me to the show and said, come on back and hang out, and let's rub some elbows, and here's some backstage passes and tickets. So do yourself a favor. Damon Johnson is out there still writing music. Go dig deep and do your homework on Damon. I believe he's going to release another Brother Kane record, and I think he's got his own website, maybe Damon Johnson Official, but just a gem of a human and an amazing musician.
That's awesome. And I actually have in my collection the debut Brother Kane album, his lead-off single, Got No Shame, with that jamming distorted harmonica is just off the hook crazy good. I mean,
it is, and I'm
very talented. For
You're
sure.
Right. And sorry to interrupt, but I love And Fools Shine On.
Yeah.
And you talk about Kevin Bacon having like 7 degrees of separation with all these people. If you were to ask me, well, wait a second, didn't you play with Brother Kane? And I would say, good on you, Deke, good homework. When my band Caramel went out on the road, when I was signed to Geffen, we played a bunch of shows with Creed and Brother Kane in the US. Never got to meet Damon. Econoline Crush, we played a bunch of shows with. So you talk, all these things are flying out in my universe. And, you know, had I been able to go backstage and try to find Damon at that point, I would have just told him how much I love his band. I met him through Nick Raskulinich, the producer of Rush, on Snakes and Arrows and Clockwork Angels. And Nick and Damon are very good friends. And Nick and I are really close buddies. And he was like, man, you got to meet my buddy, Damon Johnson, man. You two guys get along. And so fast forward, Damon and I are friends now.
Yeah, he's a huge talent. I bought a couple of his albums back in the day off of iTunes. Just love his stuff. Great singer, songwriter, guitarist. But man, oh man, I love that Brother Kane album because it just came out in '93 when that really wasn't the sound. But he kind of just kicked the doors down, just saying, "Here's my vibe," and you know, and it did really well. I mean,
it did.
Great band. So
yeah,
actually, into a Brother Kane conversation. Should get him on the show, man.
Well, he's the type of guy that I could say, "Hey, would you mind doing this?" He might actually do it. So hit me up after we finish, and maybe I'll see if I can connect the dot and see if Damon's up for it.
Sure. Just you said something quite interesting, which I never knew about because obviously I'm not part of the music business. You said sometimes, like you said, you submitted a couple extra songs for Whiskey and the Devil, and the record company said, "No, we're only paying you for 10." Yeah, is that what happened with the Coney debut of with Dreamland and Where I Draw the Line? Were those songs
absolutely
2 songs too many? We're not paying you, so
absolutely. Those 2 were finished masters, recorded with Kim Mitchell at the same time as the rest of the debut record. Sin After Sin was part of the demo tape that got us our record deal. So we never actually went back and redid Sin After Sin for the record because we were trying to whittle down our candidates. Mm-hmm. And so Where I Draw the Line and Dreamland were part of that, definitely part of that debut recording.
And see, yeah, and that's kind of cool because when you hear those songs, the studio versions, I'm thinking like, why were they left off? They're good songs. And then I thought, and then there you are on your first show in the States in Cleveland, and you're playing both of them. So then I thought, well, maybe those were written for Out of Hand. So
no, but funny story for you. When we recorded the full record, Hey Operator wasn't even part of that. We went back out and started playing live shows because we were road dogs. Mm-hmm. And Carl came to us and said, "Hey guys, I got a song for the second record. Why don't we keep writing?" Because Kim Mitchell had given us some very early good advice, was never stop writing, guys. Never, ever stop writing. The record is not done until you give it to your record company. So when we handed the record in to Anthem, and I personally had to fight to say, they were like, "We're taking monkey bars off." And I was like, "Wait a second here. I need to tell you guys, we're not household names, but all the shows that we've been doing, that song goes over really well live. So we got to keep monkey bars on it." And there was a bit of a struggle to put that in, and they went, "Okay, we'll put it last song, second side, nobody will even notice it." Well, actually it's become the most popular Coney Hatch song to date, 40 plus years later. So that kind of tells me, hey, A&R guy back then, you were wrong. You should not take monkey bars off. But in the case of Hey Operator, we were playing in a club called the Round One in Thorold, Ontario, and we rehearsed in the afternoon, and we learned Hey Operator because we were religiously playing all those songs live. Further to what you said, when we played Cleveland, we kept Where I Draw the Line and Dreamland in our set because we love those songs. We were like, who cares if they're not on the album? Those are our songs, and we're putting them in. So we learned Hey Operator. We played it live that night. in a suburb of St. Catharines. And one of the guys from our record company was there after the show. He came and he said, "What the hell was that song, Hey Operator?" To which Carl said, "Oh, that's a song for the second album." And he goes, no. You guys are going back in the studio. You're going to cut that. And I think we have the single that we need. So we went back in, and that indeed was the first single. It was all over rock radio in Canada, and helped us on our rocket ride, helped put us in the place that we needed to be with a couple singles there. So you look back at that first record and you can say, okay, Monkey Bars, Hey Operator, Devil's Deck, Stand Up. Those are really to this day, those we rarely play a show without those four being put into the set list, because those are the ones our fans are pretty vocal about saying that they want to hear.
Not true, because on Postcard from Germany, we had this discussion. The Operator wasn't played that night.
That was an oversight, okay? We finished the show and we went back in the dressing room covered in sweat. And one of the guys in the band, I can't remember, it might have been Ketchum, goes, "We forgot to play Hey Operator tonight." And we're like, oh, that was not intentional. That was
okay. All right.
That was a complete operator error.
Yeah, that's funny. I knew you would be cool with me calling you out on it. I had to be the guy that had to go there. But let's just talk about the fantastic. I mean, the CD is super cool, and it's, like I said, a very cool looking package. Now, I noticed a few things in here, which I'm sure you probably got amusement of probably back in the day and rediscovering, but you can see it. Cheap Trick with opening act Coney Hatch.
Coney Hatch. Okay. That was the start of the fun journey for me to save clippings every time somebody spelled our band name wrong. Okay. So you can imagine our disappointment. The biggest show that Coney Hatch is about to play in their hometown at the biggest venue, CNE Grandstand. And that was during the CNE when the exhibition was on. So I go down there going, oh man, this is going to be great. There's going to be signage everywhere. And to my disappointment, I look up and they have spelt our name wrong at the CNE. Now there was, you'll see other clippings in there with Ted Nugent, Cheap Trick, and Coney Hatch. They in the press, they fixed it. But funny story for you, I later learned out that there is a kind of like a lounge jazz singer in England by the name of Tony Hatch. And so there literally is a guy named Tony. But I'm like, are you kidding me? You can't even get the name right of a Toronto band on this sign. So on our jacket, when you buy the record, you'll see that there's a clipping there from the Gasworks, which we played 1 million times. And they refer to us as Loney Hatch. Yep. There you go, Loney Hatch. There's another one in there, Coney Hutch. Yep. When we got to the States, people would tell us, oh yeah, we really like you guys. We know about Coney Hatchet. And I'm like, no, that's Molly Hatchet. We're Coney Hatch, right? So our name caused a lot of confusion, but I found it funny and comical. And that's why I wanted to put it on that jacket there.
No, and that's the cool stuff. It's almost like Spinal Tapish. Really?
It is.
And,
yeah. Put Puppet Show's supposed to be first, not Coney Hatch first.
You know, I wonder if somebody's showing up when that gentleman Tony Hatch is playing over in England, and somebody's had a few
yelling out Monkey Bars. Yeah.
Monkey Bars. And he's like, get this guy out of here. Get him out of here. But I have to ask you, you referred to the Cheap Trick Ted Nugent show at the CNE a couple of times, and your bandmate Carl wrote a fantastic book about I think almost 10 years ago, and I got a lot of my info from Carl, so thank you, Carl. He wrote that when you guys played that show, that the Nugent sound guys kind of sabotaged your sound, and when you guys came off the stage, it was like you guys were really psyched, and then somebody said we could barely hear you. So do you recall any of that? Or
on that specific show, I do not, but Carl's memory could be correct, but I'll tell you, it was quite customary at that time for the headliner not to treat the opener very well. They would give you hardly any room on the stage. They would not give you full use of the lights. If you're familiar with the term governor that has been put on a mini bike or a small engine, where like those old go-karts that the kids used to ride on, they would put a governor on there so that you couldn't wind it out and you couldn't go 50 miles an hour. You could only go 20 miles an hour, right? So think of that on a PA system out front. So they would essentially choke your volume so that you could come out with less of an impact. So, but by the time the headliner comes on, you're like, oh my God, look at these lights, listen to the sound. And most of the time that was, from my knowledge, done by the road crew, maybe not implemented necessarily by the bands themselves. But I could tell you many years later that when my band, Andy Curran, Soho 69, opened up for Rush, they did the exact opposite. They said, how much lights do you want? How much room on the stage do you want? Go ahead, knock your socks off, turn up the volume, right? So there were many occasions that we were definitely restricted in all of those areas. I personally don't remember all of the details around that show, other than I remember losing my mind and meeting Robin Zander and Rick Nielsen side stage because I love Cheap Trick.
There we go.
So those are some of my fond memories about that show.
Okay, well, fair enough. And we'll close that chapter. Now let's get into taking a look at this fantastic vinyl, because people really got to see this. So there's the cover. I hope you guys can see the cover okay. And as Andy said earlier, there's the alternate back cover shot. But this gatefold is really slick, Andy. Like, well done, man. Like,
thank you. I worked very closely with Andy Hawk at Anthem Records, the GM of the label. He and I, we kind of assembled all of this, and then obviously shared it with Ketchum and Sean Kelly and Carl Dixon to go, do you guys like this? You got anything to add to it? There's the splatter vinyl, which turned out awesome.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like a drug trip.
It's a drug trip without being on a drug trip. So thank you.
Exactly. And then the other thing, while you're showing everybody what the package looks like, when we released this record, it was customary to send out a promo copy to radio stations. And so we had an EP. Yeah, there's the yellow one. I personally love the yellow one the most. Yeah.
Who came up with that decal, that rotary phone idea? Was that you?
No, that was one of the graphic artists back then when we released Hey Operator as a single. That was the artwork on the single for Hey Operator, the 45 RPM.
Oh, that's
record.
cool. Like to reuse that, genius.
Yeah.
Love it.
So we thought it was perfect. But, getting back to the audio. So back in the day, if you worked at Chum FM, before the record was officially released, you got what was termed as a promo EP, a taster, a little, hey, this is what's coming in a month from now. So the record company thought it would be really cool to interview Kim Mitchell and ask him about these songs. So the only way that you could hear this interview was if you were a radio programmer back in the day and you were sent this promotional EP that was never for sale. So we took those little audio snippets of Kim Mitchell's interview and also put them on this package. So there's another little rarity for fans to hear Kim's thoughts about working with Coney Hatch and talking about songs specifically.
Yeah, and he even does the liner notes, and he explains the whole Monkey Bars solo that Steve Shelsky brought to the table. Throws down props for all of you guys. And I have to say, it's pretty cool listening to Kim Mitchell's voice coming on, because one point, one of the sound bites, I think it was after We Got the Night, he calls you guys suburban monsters.
I like that tag.
I think that's a great title for his song, man.
Yeah. I might steal that. Suburban monsters. Yeah, there you go.
And, and even at the end of the show, he says, Coney Hatch, smoking your turntable. It's pretty cool. But I have to tell everybody out there, you have to buy the CD or the vinyl to hear the sound bites with Kim Mitchell. they're not on the streaming side of things.
Correct.
So there you go. So it makes you, if you want the full meal deal, you got to go to Anthem or ConeyHatch.com or hit Andy up for the album. Now, Andy, just to focus a little bit on that live portion of the show from Cleveland, you guys, I know you said 11 a.m., are ferocious. Like, you guys just came out guns firing. I mean, Dave Ketchum.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like, that guy is just a beast on the drums. I know why you guys would play We Got the Night opening up for Judas Priest, because listen to those drums at the beginning. It's like machine gun fire, like, bop, 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 and like you guys are off and running. And
I love Dave Ketchum.
It's all you guys are like right at that level. Like, you guys are just going for the throat. I mean, you got Stand Up. I love how you guys, Steve and Dave, jam out at the end during like the solo. I don't think you call it jamming out. I'm not a musician, as you know, but just, it's got like, you guys really nailed down. It's a really cool groove. And I've always loved that song. You Ain't Got Me. That's a little ass kicker of a track. I love how you have Carl's guitar on mixed on one side and you have Steve doing the power chords on the other. And you and Dave are nailing down the back end there. It's such a great song. I mean, Jesus, you got to bring that back, man.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Well, and you know, I referred to it earlier as lightning in a bottle, but maybe it could, I think it was maybe the reason that you felt that, and you used the word ferocious on it, might have been a combination of adrenaline and coffee mixed together, because we were like, how are we going to get through the show? We're barely awake. Like, we were night owls, dude. That was a real issue with us. We had never played a show earlier than probably, 9 or 10 p.m. We might have done the odd matinee disgruntled but when we were a bar band, but playing in the daytime was such a foreign concept to us that the only way to try to trick our brains was to fuel ourselves with caffeine. So you might have been hearing just like a caffeine fueled adrenaline, like
pre Red Bull rush.
Pre-Red Bull. There you go.
And it's killer. And I have to say, I was also glad to see some of these songs live, or to listen to them live, that you guys, you guys have been really productive since the Almo record, Postcard from Germany. Like, of course, You Ain't Got Me. It's the first time I'm hearing that one live on anything recorded. Victim of Rock. Really two good versions of Where I Draw the Line and Dreamland, which really slay live. But we have to talk about your one song that you brought back, and that's I'll Do the Talking.
Yeah.
Okay. That to me is a real killer track. I love your snarly vocal on it. It almost reminds me of like you're interchanneling Frankie Venom from Teenage Head. Like you're, like through a Marshall stack. And I love how you go. I love the line where you say, we're going to see who's boss. I just love that. And then you go into the chorus and you say, I'm taking over, and you're laying down on your back in the city. When you go from the chorus right into that second verse, that to me, my friend, is ear candy to me. That's so awesome.
Well, thank you, dude. And quite honestly, I mean, Teenage Head was one of my first early influences. And in addition to liking, Southern rock, I was a big punk rock fan because of the nastiness and the aggression of it. So, the Sex Pistols and the Ramones and the Damned and Teenage Head, these were all 999. I loved those punk bands too. So I take that as a compliment, because I loved Frankie Venom and I loved punk rock. But to be honest with you, Dave Ketchum and I always felt that I'll Do the Talking had a bit of an Aerosmith vibe, and we were real big Aerosmith fans. So I thought, maybe this is a bit of a nod to Dave and I liking Aerosmith. that song was originally called, I forget what it was called. Maybe the working title of it was called Knockout or something. And it was quite fast. It was double the tempo of where it ended up on the record. So one of Kim Mitchell's many suggestions was, guys, why don't we slow that song down? It'll be way heavier. And then Dave and I went, heavy? Did you say heavy? We're in. That's a couple of knuckleheads, right? We're like, if it's going to be heavy, for sure, right? But that's just one example. You know, Kim was the guy that said, Steve, why don't you play that crazy jazz outside solo on monkey bars? Why don't we strip back all of the guitars in stand up and feature bass and drums? These are all production ideas that came from Kim Mitchell.
Wow, that's great. And even your demo version that you mentioned earlier about Sin After Sin, that to me has a real old school Saxon vibe to it.
Absolutely. I was a real big fan of new wave of British heavy metal with Motorhead and Saxon and Judas Priest and Def Leppard and Iron Maiden. All of those bands was a steady diet of listening. So for sure, Sin After Sin is indicative of how much those bands influenced me.
Well, that's great. You wear them well on your sleeve, my friend.
I try to without ripping them off, if possible. But the feel and the spirit of it is there.
That's it. The feel and the spirit. That's the best way to sum it up. So, Andy, before I cut you loose, previous times I've had you on, I've done a top 10 list in regards to your solo stuff.
Yeah.
Last time I had you on, we did a top 6-pack of Envy and None. Yeah. Today, I'd like to do a top 12 Coney songs, and I'll just go through them rather quick. But
top 12 Coney Hatch songs. Okay.
I put 3 tracks in, as I call it, the Hall of Coneheads. And that would be Devil's Deck, Hey Operator, and Monkey Bars. Because I didn't want them. We got other songs I want to talk to you about quickly. One of them would be You Ain't Got Me from the debut. Dreamland from the Cleveland show. I'll Do the Talking from the Cleveland show. I keep playing those two over and over again. Some Like It Hot from Out of Hand.
Yep.
Too Far Gone from Out of Hand.
Yep.
Love that Carl song. Wrong Side of Town from the Alamo, because Sean Kelly shreds like a monster on that thing.
Doesn't he? He? Sean's so awesome.
Fantastic. Stand Up from the debut, of course. Don't Say Make Me from Out of Hand. She's Gone from Friction.
Yep.
Boys Club from the 4 album.
Nice.
And I had to finish it the 11th and 12th with Heaven's on the Other Side, and It's About a Girl, because I like the fact that you guys in 2025 or right around this time now, you guys are still pushing forward with new music with Sean Kelly. But I did a bonus track, and that bonus track would be number 13, and that's Fallen Angel. Sorry.
Well, listen, I got to tell you that whether you realize it or not, you put together a pretty impressive set list there. If Coney Hatch was ever to take the best of Zeke and go, this is for Zeke, we're playing every one of his songs, right? So you covered some really good territory there. I'm only because it would take me far too long to talk about every one of your songs there. Sure. I want to talk about 2 in particular that you chose. You Ain't Got Me, which you're right, has a really snappy little drive to it. And it's got a really sort of, nice up-tempo feel to it. Jack Richardson produced that track. Kim Mitchell was really quite out of sorts about what do I do with this song. And he felt that it could have been a really big single. So he said to us, guys, have you ever heard of Jack Richardson? He produced all the Guess Who records, and he worked with Alice Cooper and this and that. We're like, are you kidding me? Of course we were aware of Jack Richardson. He said, I'm going to bring Jack in, and Jack's going to co-produce that track. So I have some very fond memories of being in the studio with Jack Richardson, working on that track, and Kim, and God bless his soul, man. And he was such a great guy and really a fun guy to be around, and just such an iconic Canadian producer. His son, Garth Richardson, little small known fact, Rage Against the Machine. He produced
Right.
that band and many other ones. So Garth is the son of Jack and still around doing some amazing records. But we used to joke about playing You Ain't Got Me in sound checks and how well it worked singing Luann Gotti instead of You Ain't Got Me. And Luann Gotti was a famous Chicago Blackhawk player. So we would sing Luann Gotti like you want. So, Carl and I would joke around about that. Now, the other one that I want to talk to you about, which you brought up, is Radar Love / Fallen Angel. We had a song called Fallen Angel, and it was a completely different feel. It's so long ago, Deke, that I can't even tell you the tempo or the vibe. And Max Norman said, you guys, why don't we change that to a shuffle? And we went, well, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, Dave, I want you to play on your snare. Andy, just play dum, 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 dum. And we're starting playing it. And we stop and we look at Max Norman. We go, dude, that's Radar Love. It's like, and he goes, well, it's the same groove as Radar Love, but it's a completely different song. And has anybody ever done a groove like that other than Golden Earring? Little did he know that Moontan Golden Earring was one of the first ever CDs that I bought, and I wore the shit out of it. Okay, that is it's in the top 10 favorite albums of mine. As a matter of fact, I bought the deluxe reissue of Moontan, and anybody that's a fan of Golden Earring, you go out and you find that CD. It is killer. Bunch of great outtakes and artwork. So we knew going in that we had nicked that groove. And so many years later, I jokingly ask the band when we play it live, bring it down. And then we'll play just bass and drums. I go, this kind of reminds me of a song. You guys, does it remind you of a song? And then I go, you're driving all night, my hands laid on the wheel, straight into it. I'm literally paying homage to one of my favorite songs and one of my favorite bands. But we did know going in ahead and recording it with Max, it was his idea to change that song into a shuffle. So there you got two little tidbits about You Ain't Got Me and Fallen Angel.
Hey, that's awesome. That's what I like. That's why I love talking to you. You always have something new to share with me. I've been a fan basically since the debut drop back a few years back, we'll say. And, in finishing up, Andy, what's going on with your other band here? Envy and None, and the second album, Wham Bam.
Never even heard of those guys, man. Never even heard of them. No, I'll tell you what's going on. Obviously with Alex announcing with his pal Getty that Rush are going to go on the road, we're going to be in a bit of a hiatus point with Envy of None. Everybody in the band wants to continue, so it's at the moment we're definitely interested in working on a third record. So we'll continue to write as a team. We all love each other, but front and center, we're just about to announce a second round of activity for the Ukraine charity that we previously raised $100,000 for to go to the refugees in Ukraine that had been displaced from their homes and driven out of their own country. So Alex Lifeson and Maya Wynn were very vocal. This is a project and a subject very near and dear to their hearts, where they wanted to continue on and see what we could do to help over there. The topic has really drifted from the media, and you don't hear a lot about it, but we know for a fact in talking to our friends over at the UNHCR, the agency that is still helping these refugees, that it's still a massive problem there. People don't even have enough money for essentials that you and I take for granted every day: toothpaste, soap, shampoo, shoes, T-shirts, right? And all the money will go back towards that. So we're just about to announce that we've got more Zoom calls that people can purchase. We've got 3 or 4 left. We put 10 up for sale, where you can spend a half an hour, 40 minutes on the line with everybody from Envy of None and ask any question you want to any member. all proceeds going back to the Ukraine and the UNHCR. And then we've got a special vinyl variant, it's Thrill of the Chase remix and Handle with Care. The proceeds from that vinyl will also go back to help the refugees in Ukraine. So, if you're asking me sort of front and center what's happening with Envy of None today, that's the project that we're focused on right now.
Fair enough. And I'll put a link down to the Envy of None website, and
please do
check it out for sure. And two more questions, Andy. What are your feelings and thoughts about Alex and Rush? And can you give me a little bit of inside info about your upcoming all acoustic Coney Hatch show, November 14th? That's, I think, pretty much sold out.
Yeah, it is. I'll talk to you first about that. The show is at the Redwood Theater. It's probably the first time ever that we intentionally ticketed a unplugged show. And you're going to say, what do you mean intentionally? The only other time we played unplugged was in Brandon, Manitoba, when the power went out in a 2 radius city block grid, and we were left in total blackness. The club owner came to us and said, if I can rustle up some acoustic guitars, would you guys play a set? And we were like, absolutely. And we had a blast that night. We had such a blast, right? So we're going to do that. Similar to our interview, we'll have a guest host that will announce that night, that will ask us questions, talk to us about behind the scenes, what it was like recording with Kim, touring with Judas Priest, the stories behind the making of that debut record. And that'll be at the Redwood Theater, November 14th in Toronto. Very small venue, 225, 50 maximum capacity. I think there might be maybe 10 or 15 tickets left. So it's on its way to a sellout. So excited about that one. And we're going to get into some rehearsals to make sure that show is special for everybody that's there that night. And then the last thing that you asked me about was Rush and getting back together with their new drummer. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to see Annika play drums in Jeff Beck's band when Jeff Beck played in Toronto and Johnny Depp was in the lineup. So she's a fantastic, gifted drummer. I couldn't be happier for Geddy or Alex that they're going to be back out and playing. I know that there's so much excitement. I remember when the boys called it quits after Neil's passing, and a lot of people asked me about this, and I said there is a lot of race left in those two horses, meaning Geddy and Alex. And I had a gut feeling that they weren't done. They just weren't. They're just far too incredible of the musicians to just lay it down and go, but we're putting our guitars and bass down, we're not playing again. So I'm thrilled for them, dude. Absolutely thrilled.
That's awesome. And I think it's safe to say when you play the Northwood, after that show, after you play, you won't be getting paid money in a paper bag.
I hope not. I hope they aren't sliding us some kind of money raised by the Hells Angels. Been there, done it. Or whether it was Satan's Choice or Paradise Riders. That was a scary chapter that you and I spoke about with my band playing for a bunch of bikers, and they came in the dressing room and handed me a paper bag filled with cash, and I was like, I'm going to walk out in the street with this? I'm going to get mugged. I was just like petrified is the only word I could say. But no, pretty sure they're going to pay us with a certified check that night, so it should be all good, Deke.
All right, well, that's good. Everybody's mellowing out over the years.
Yes.
As always, totally psyched that you always make time to come on and chat with me. I want everybody to definitely check out, even if you don't buy it, stream it, but you should buy it because it's a very well done package. And Andy, you're one of the best, buddy. And thanks for always coming on.
Man, my pleasure, Deke. I love coming on and chewing the fat with you, buddy. It never feels like an interview. It feels like two guys just hanging out. So you take care, best to your family. And what he said, have a listen to the debut record. It's up on all the streaming platforms. It's in stores now. If you can't find it, go to the Coney Hatch store. Our website has it available. And a lot of love and care and sweat and blood and tears went behind making that record. So enjoy it, buddy.
I am, and I always will. And we'll catch up with you soon, Andy.
Sounds good, Deke. Take care, brother.